What's up, guys? This is Dan Can Bake It. I'm Dan Langan, and I'm here today in my kitchen with another crazy baking challenge from Food Network. I have a box right here, fresh from the network. I'm gonna open it up and see what's inside. Feels pretty light. I feel like you guys shopped for the wrong person. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this stuff. A tiara and is this like a princess wand? Is that what you call this? So let's see what this envelope says. Make an over-the-top cake inspired by a Disney princess. Okay, this stuff makes sense now because I'm pretty sure Food Network didn't buy this stuff for me to wear while I was baking, but a Disney princess. You might be surprised to hear that princesses in general aren't a big part of my life, but I have seen a few Disney movies, and I do know that lately I've been kind of into the whole Moana inspired thing. I love the beach. I love anything that's tropical. So I feel like if I had to make a Disney princess cake, I would make a cake that's inspired by Moana, because I can get down with the whole beachy tropical thing. And I think Moana's pretty cool too, because she's like her own woman. She's like a princess that doesn't need all this princess junk. Like, she's Moana and that's enough. So I think that's the direction I'm gonna go. All right, guys, so I've done my research, I've done some brainstorming, and I'm feeling pretty confident in this Moana-inspired design. Like I said, I don't relate to too many Disney princesses, but Moana's an island girl. She's got the ocean right there. So I really feel like a cake with a tropical feel and some beautiful tropical flowers and bright colors and a nice islandy, grassy texture. I think that's really gonna fulfill this challenge. So the way I wanna do that is by creating, I guess, a mini two-tiered cake, and I'll put it atop a square cake that's kind of carved down to look like an island hill setting. I think it's a pretty solid plan. I'm gonna get started stacking and filling these cakes. So the first thing I wanna do is grab some hibiscus simple syrup. So this is just your normal simple syrup. I let it cool, and then I infused some hibiscus tea leaves into the syrup. So I have a bowl here, I have a little strainer, and I'll just strain some of this out. So it's kind of like this really thick, sweet, syrupy hibiscus tea. It's gonna add a great flavor, a nice floral note to these cakes, and it's also going to add this beautiful color when I cut into it. And I'll start by soaking these tiers with this simple syrup. So I'll just move this tray to the side and I'm gonna start stacking up these layers. I'll grab my first layer. So I'll go for about 1/4 of an inch of buttercream. I'll spread this all the way to the outside edge. All right, layer 2. All right, last 4-inch right here. Okay, so I'll get started on this 6-inch layer here. All right, layer number 2. All right, layer 3. Okay, last layer, I want this to be super even. So I have a half sheet cake. You can see how nice and easy it is to handle. It's because it's cold. So I'm just going to cut these into squares. I want to hit this with some of this hibiscus simple syrup. All right, so one more here. I'll cut this side off. So I'll grab my turntable again. I'm gonna fill this with some vanilla buttercream. All right, so I'll grab my other cake and I'll line up these layers corner to corner, just like this. All right, so I've got my carving knife here, and I think what I wanna do is just start by bringing in these edges a little bit. And no rhyme or reason about this, I'm just gonna start with a nice big dollop right in the center, and I'll move it all the way down towards the sides. So this already looks pretty good, but I'm gonna use this flexible plastic scraper here just to kind of contour this buttercream and get it really smooth all the way up the sides of the cake. All right, so I'll grab my 6-inch cake. I'm gonna frost that with this green buttercream. So I'm gonna overload the top of the cake. I'll spread it all the way to the sides. All right, so now I'm gonna switch to a big metal scraper and just let this scraper start to define a nice straight side for this cake. All right, so that looks pretty good. So I'll pop this in the fridge. I want this to get really firm before I do anything else to it. Frost this little 4-inch tier the same way that I just frosted that larger 6-inch cake. Okay, so I'm gonna pop this 4-inch tier into the fridge. I'll let it hang out with my other cake tiers. I'll let them get nice and cold before I move on with the design. So what I've done is create this really cool, kind of like islandy looking tropical swirl template on this piece of paper. And this cake is pretty high, so I'm thinking maybe if I center it just like this. And it's almost like when you're using one of those like jack-o'-lantern carving kits, you kind of like follow along the design. So I have some green buttercream in a piping bag here just with I think it's a number 10 open tip. I'll just make sure there's no air in the bag. And what I'm gonna do is follow this along. So this looks a little rough right now. The only way to get this really smooth is to chill it. So what I'm gonna do is chill this until this buttercream gets nice and firm. I'll have smooth buttercream and a cake that's ready to finish. All right, so I think my buttercream swirl has probably had enough time to chill in the fridge. So now I'm ready for the fun part. I need to wet the buttercream a little bit just so that I can kind of sculpt and mold that buttercream. I don't want to use water though, because the water will hang around and it'll make the cake all wet. So I'll just use vodka in a spray bottle so that I can smooth this out. Okay, so finally my cakes are chilled, so I can pull them out of the fridge and I'm gonna stack them up. So the first thing I wanna do is put some support in the bottom of this 12-inch square cake so that the rest of my cakes can sit on top of it. So I'm gonna use a bowl to give myself a little template of where I'm gonna place some straws. And the general rule of thumb is to use the amount of straws as the size of the cake that's going on top of the straws. So I have a 6-inch cake here, so I'm gonna use 6 straws for my support. So I'll push this straw straight down until it hits the board. You can kind of feel it tap the board. And then I'll line these up and I'll cut 5 more. And then for this one, it's only a 4-inch cake, but it's really tall. So you know what? I'm gonna go for 5 straws, why not? All right, so I've got my 12-inch cake. What I'm gonna do, I'll take some extra buttercream I still have in my piping bag here, and I'll put just a little bit of buttercream on the bottom here. That'll act like glue to hold my 6-inch tier. Pick up the entire cake. I like to use the straws as a good spot to push. I don't wanna just push into the buttercream. If you push into the straws, it gives the cake nice contact with the cake that's under it. So I'll put just a little bit of buttercream on the top layer here. This is cold enough, I'll just pick it up just like that. And then if there are any huge gaps, I'm just going to just barely, almost like caulk that space in with this extra buttercream. All right, so this is the part of this cake that I've been like super excited about. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I'm going to finish this buttercream with a sprayed chocolate texture that's gonna make this really velvety, really crackly look. So if you've ever seen sprayed chocolate before, you might know that it's kind of like a high-end pastry technique and you have to use real chocolate to do this, but I'm just using those colored chocolate coins that you get from the arts and crafts store. I thin them down with a little bit of vegetable shortening and I'm gonna run them through a paint sprayer. So I have some green chocolate in here, it's melted, it's nice and warm, and I'm just gonna start spraying my cake. I think this chocolate velvet texture looks really awesome, but I also think the color is just a little bit flat. So I'm gonna get rid of this chocolate paint sprayer. I'll grab my airbrush and I'm gonna brighten up the color a little bit with some green and yellow. All right, so this cake is the perfect opportunity to showcase a gorgeous sugar flower. And I know that I want a giant, brightly colored hibiscus on the top of this cake to really set the colors and set the tone of this cake. So what I'm gonna do is show you guys how to make a hibiscus flower out of gum paste. And kind of the same deal as fondant or modeling chocolate, you wanna work it until it's nice and stretchy and it gets nice and supple. And I have this awesome board here that I roll my gum paste onto. And I'll grab a nonstick rolling pin and I'll roll it until it's nice and thin. So I have a teardrop cutter here and I'll center that and I'll take a floral wire, which is just a thin piece of wire wrapped in cloth, and then really carefully I'm just going to insert that wire up into the center of the petal. And hibiscus flowers always have this beautiful kind of arch outwards on their petals, so I'll just dry it upside down on a plastic spoon, just like this. And I'll let this dry for probably about 6 to 8 hours, preferably overnight. So I have 2 petals that have dried, and I have some food color dust, and I'm just gonna start right at the tip, or right at the base of the petal. All right, so for my hibiscus, I need 5 petals that are dusted, and then I need to take these petals and really gently, like super gently, I wanna hold the petal and then hold where the gum paste meets the wire and bend them back just a little bit. So the final part of putting this together is some floral tape. So I'll start by wrapping this right at the base of this gum paste around this lollipop stick. So I'll grab my first petal and I'll position that petal right where the gum paste meets the lollipop stick. So at this point, all of this color, all of this dry color, it's kind of just sitting on top of the petals. I want to use a clothing steamer and I'll use the steam to just kind of set all of that color in there. So I have a steamer right here, I'll turn it on. So this is my finished hibiscus flower. It's super fragile at this point. So until I put it in my cake, I just want to stand it straight up. All right, guys, this color looks awesome. I'm ready to arrange my flowers on my cake. I have my gorgeous hibiscus here that I created earlier, and I have just some little kind of like tropical flower buds. So I think what I'm gonna do is place these little flower buds first. And let's do a few more kind of up the sides here. All right, so I'm ready to attach my hibiscus here. So I have a group of flowers here, a group here. So I wanna place this right here, like kind of right off to an angle. So I like to do this facing myself so I can get some really good perspective. So guys, just hang tight for a second here. I'm trying to figure this out. Holy smokes, oh my gosh, it looks so awesome. I love how that really bright pink, it really pops against the green. And I love that lime green effect I got with that yellow and green airbrush. It just contrasts so well with this pink hibiscus. I think it looks so good. All right, guys, to be honest, when I first saw that tiara and that Princess Moana thing, I had no idea what I was gonna do with this cake. But once I got inspired by Moana and I started to get into that island feel, I definitely dug deep. I channeled my inner Disney princess. Apparently she was like in there somewhere, I don't know. And this cake came to life. I had so much fun making it. Spraying the chocolate was definitely my favorite part because I always feel like such a rebel in my kitchen using a paint sprayer to spray chocolate. And I just love how the textures, the colors, everything came together. I think it looks so beautiful. I love the height. To me, it just screams like tropical inspired birthday. So I can't wait to get a bite of this hibiscus infused cake. So I'm gonna get a nice slice for myself. So let me know in the comments below what princess cake you would be inspired to make, and don't forget to subscribe to Food Network on YouTube.